started running away from that fire, we didn't think we were going to make it.
I couldn't believe that I actually got burnt.
I thought for sure I was gonna die right there.
You run uphill from a fire and you can't go any faster. You're going as fast as you can and you're slowing down, but you think you're going to make it. Then you think about those guys that didn't. And it really strikes you where you live as a firefighter.
In the summer of 1994, 12 firefighters died running from a fire along this line. They played a tragic part in one of the deadliest seasons in firefighting history. No one knows the risks of this business better than the smoke jumpers, America's most elite wildland firefighters. This summer, the jumpers will be tested as never before. After years of drought, the forests are tinder dry. Millions of acres of timber, homes, even entire towns could burn up. For those fighting the fires, each jump could be their last. The nation's 400 smoke jumpers are ready to fly at a moment's notice from bases like this one in Missoula, Montana.
A lot of large fire activity in Region 5, Region 6.
No two jumpers are alike.
Region 4.
There are loggers and mothers,
Dry lightning
spam
is
eaters
predicted
and
as
Buddhists.
far as
What they do have in common is a love of the
How
outdoors.
many people are going to put on the fire?
Like
There's a
city
good chance that
firefighters, they
we'll probably
protect the surrounding neighborhood.
Folks here with Bernie.
But this neighborhood is 2 million acres big. This summer, keeping it from burning up is going to take everything they've got. Most years, they get about 5 fire calls a week. Now they're getting 10 a day.
We have a jump request through Lolo. Jumpers will be Carlson, Wheel, Zaris, Hanson, Navarro, Reed, Castillo.
For 17-year veteran Wayne Williams, nothing brings out the best in the jumpers like a relentless fire season.
I really enjoy working with these people, and they're adaptable with a sense of humor.
You were up here too.
Yeah.
He was insulting you guys.
Who is that, Fitz?
The more wild it gets, the more entertaining we become, and that's what makes the job great.
Since midnight last night, we've had over 700 new lightning strikes.
16 smoke jumpers can be on the scene of a fire 250 miles away in less than an hour.
You're flying there and you look out the window and you don't know what to expect.
You see fire, and you see it just tearing up hillsides and whatnot, and it can be pretty awesome.
You know, when it's your turn to hook up that static line, that's when you know that it's serious here.
There's no question that we're at the whim of Mother Nature. And it all starts with jumping out of the airplane.
Jumpers away.
Let's go! Go!
Everything they need to fight the fire, from food and water to chainsaws and sleeping bags, also arrives by air.
Live cargo.
They have to work fast. At any moment, unpredictable mountain winds could send this fire blazing through the surrounding forest. Unlike city firefighters, the jumpers don't try to put the fire out. They starve it, cutting the fire off from the trees and brush it needs to survive.
The fire looks like it might be putting up a little bit more smoke than when you first jumped.
Digging a fire line around the entire blaze can take as little as 2 hours or as long as 2 days.
Yeah, have a good time. I think you're going to earn your salt tonight.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get much rest.
We'll check a couple things out.
Forests actually need fire to stay healthy. In wet years, many fires are allowed to burn, but not this season. The jumpers know that super dry conditions mean a small blaze can blow up into a deadly firestorm. It's a lesson they learned 45 years ago. August 5th, 1949. 15 smoke jumpers drop on a fire burning in a steep Montana gulch. Unknown to them, a strong wind is funneling down the narrow canyon of the Missouri River. When the wind sweeps into the gulch, it collides with the fire, and together they explode into a raging inferno. In seconds, a 200-foot-high wall of flame is racing towards the jumpers. When 17-year-old Bob Sallee and his roommate Walt Rumsey see the fire, they drop their tools and run.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about then, and I suppose everybody else was getting away from that fire that was right behind us there, so it was just a matter of pure survival. We wanted to get up and out of here.
With the roaring wall of fire bearing down on them, they make for the ridge, slipping over the top just ahead of a fatal blast of flame. But the other jumpers aren't so lucky. 13 men burned to death in the Man Gulch fire. It was the greatest loss of life in smoke jumper history. No one had ever seen fire move with such deadly ferocity. Scientists called the Man Gulch fire a blow-up, a rolling explosion of wind, flame, and fuel so hot and fast that almost nothing could escape it. According to one estimate, the blaze in Man Gulch consumed 3,000 acres in only 10 minutes.
Well, you know, when you're a 17-year-old boy and you survive something like that, you have to ask yourself, why me? And I couldn't find an answer. And so I decided that rather than spend a lot of time worrying about it, I just put it out of my mind and went on with my life. And I didn't think about it for years.
The deaths of so many young men shocked the Forest Service and inspired a radical review of firefighting. New equipment, new tools, and new training were developed to ensure that Man Gulch would never happen again. But this summer, anything can happen. Day or night, when the jumpers are on the fire line, they rely on each other to stay alive.
People I've been jumping with the last 21 years are some of the best friends I've ever had, and probably will continue to be. I mean, you put your life on the line for these people, and they put them on the line for you, so there's definitely a trust factor there and a bonding that you don't find in most occupations.
To get ahead of this fire, the jumpers will work together all night long.
The work at night is a lot easier on the firefighters because it's cool. And then the fire lays down because the humidity is up. And so you can accomplish a lot more at night, and then it's not as hot and sweaty. So two things. You're accomplishing more and you feel better.
It's also the perfect time to fight fire with fire.
And basically what I'm going to do is light some of these green trees inside the line. Pretty bright. A fire like this can just sit here all night and roll around, not do much, and then in the morning when the winds pick up and it the relative humidity drops, this thing can roll. So basically, if we can burn these green pockets out tonight, we have a better chance of holding the line tomorrow.
After working through the night, they finally have the upper hand. But with hundreds of fires burning, these men will be fighting a new blaze in a matter of hours.
When were you guys' last days off?
When they return to the base, each firefighter's name goes back on the active list. During a season this frantic, everyone is always on call.
We'll be busy today.
There's precious little time for rest. So for jumpers like Quentin Rhodes, if you can't see your family at home, you see them at the base.
I'm jealous, actually. I wanted to jump ever since I was a little kid, so I figured since I couldn't jump, I'd just marry one. So.
But jumping isn't all glamour and adventure.
We're sewing, we're ironing, we're cleaning. Out in the field, we're cooking Spam with whatever you got. The people bring their own sauces. So if you want to be a big burly smoke jumper, pay attention in home ec.
As soon as he gets back.
The jumpers make their own backpacks and jumpsuits, but they take the greatest care with the one piece of equipment that must never fail.
You got to be a little bit daring and adventurous to do it, but once you get into it, it's kind of a high, you know, and a big adrenaline rush and adventures and the camaraderie and whatnot. And so it's addictive. It certainly is addictive.
And if leaping out of an airplane doesn't get a jumper's heart racing, meeting some of the forest locals will.
My partner was on my left, and then to the right of me, I heard this, and it came to stop about 20 yards away from me. So I really couldn't see through the trees real well. I kind of looked forward and looked around the trees, and I saw black fur. And I think the bear at the same time looked around the trees and saw red fur, and we both went, pew!
Smoke jumpers may be fast on their feet, but they can't keep pace with the endless fire calls. They're stretched to their limits. A base with 120 jumpers on its list is now down to 3.
They just either have to wait till they get people back in to fill them, or they'll drop retardant on them to kind of keep them calmed down, or they'll lose them. We're pretty much behind the fire power curve until either the weather changes or there's more smoke jumpers available.
They're stuck on a burning treadmill. As one group heads out, another is just finishing up. Even after the flames have died down, pockets of burning embers can smolder for days.
If the wind was to pick this up or was to cross the line, it could start all over again. And under dry conditions, it could, you know, take off.
Stamping out the hot spots is a dirty business called mopping up.
Mop up is when you put the fire
Dead out. And you use water and dirt and tools, stir it up, kind of like a big stew. And as you can see, it's working.
Yep, this is all smoking about an hour ago. Right.
Once the ground is cooled, the biggest and ugliest part of the job remains, hand-feeling the entire site.
And it's just getting down in the dirt on your hands and knees and crawling through every inch of it. It's not the most glamorous part of the job, but it's the part of the job that ensures us that we don't have a reburn. You usually tell by the end of the day who's been working and who hasn't been working. Oh, if they're not black and sooty, or if their hands are pretty clean. Makes for great showering at the end.
There's nothing like massaging 2 acres of charred forest to work up an appetite.
Thank you very much.
Tonight's menu features blackened Spam and a range of freeze-dried favorites, all heavily seasoned with ash and dirt.
How long have you been married to her?
10. It'll be 10 in October.
Do you still like her?
A lot.
Yeah, you should see this puppy love.
Oh, I know. It's funny.
I know.
I think it's because she can still beat him up.
You got that right.
Yeah. You don't expect me to go to the woods without caution, do you?
Oh, no, but 20 miler in front of us.
They may fly to the fire, but after days of back-breaking work, the jumpers must hike to the nearest road, which may be as far as 15 miles away.
Carlson, Nemore, Whiskey, Badazzori, Castile, Rhodes, Gray.
By late summer, the jumpers have already put out hundreds of fires. If this pace continues, most of them will have worked the equivalent of a year in only 4 months. It's been a long season. Everyone knows that fatigue is narrowing their slim margin of safety. Drought conditions mean the forests are burning hotter and faster than ever before. These jumpers are dropping into tinder boxes.
What we have here is we've got 10 smoke jumpers on 100 acres, and we jumped it with the idea that we'd have 2 20-man crews supporting us. Then we found out that they're not available.
Get up there.
Got it.
It's kind of a hopeless situation if things get hot. And the best thing we can do is just paint the hillside with retardant and hope for good weather.
The fire retardant provides temporary help, an instant fire line hundreds of yards long. But as the wind picks up, things look worse for the jumpers.
So right now we're just trying to snag everything and secure the line better and hold what we've got. And then if we can feel comfortable with this, but I don't,
yeah.
And then hopefully try and work that way towards the bottom end of this thing.
Yeah, if I can get this one out to the center. If one of these trees torch here, the embers are just going to fly over this little tiny line here and just torch trees on the other side. As soon as a tree torches on the outside of the line, it's a whole new game.
In a blink of Mother Nature's eye, their line is overrun.
Look at it go.
Their only option is retreat.
Fires they're gonna burn whether you're in front of them or not. And the idea is just to step aside and let it take what it wants to take.
Having a safe place to go is the difference between routine and tragedy. July 4th, 1994. A home video camera records a small fire burning on top of a mountain in Colorado. 2 days later, the fire is 10 times bigger. Scores of firefighters are now on the scene, including 16 smoke jumpers and a 20-person hotshot crew. The crews are spread across the hillside, cutting fire line through brush that is bone dry. For smoke jumper Eric Hipke, it was a typical fire until a cold front arrived.
Usually that just means a change in winds, and there's going to be some changes, so we were looking out for that. But we had no idea that 50-mile-an-hour wind was going to be coming in with that. That was something totally unexpected.
When the winds roared in, the two groups of firefighters in greatest peril began pulling out.
I was going to go back with the hotshot crew originally, and I went and looked over the edge where they were at, and then it became painfully obvious that was not going to be an option. Whatever chance we had was going to be up the hill.
While Quentin Rhodes and 7 smoke jumpers ran straight up the hill to a safe zone, Eric Hipke and 12 other firefighters were moving up this line, a half-mile from safety at the top of the ridge.
People were starting to say, Jesus, look behind us, and you'd look back and you could see that it jumped all the way to the other side of the valley we were in, so it was burning on both sides towards us, and that's when we really started moving out.
When we started running away from that fire, we didn't think we were going to make it. I didn't. I thought for sure I was going to get burned up, and I just couldn't believe it, I was really worried about my family and my wife and my daughter. And I thought, I can't believe I'm getting burned up. And it wasn't funny. I was really scared.
I figured for sure we were going to make it. I mean, there wasn't any doubt that we weren't, until I kept looking, and it was just getting that much closer, and the roar. Yeah, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. The speed at which that moved, just incredible.
Photos snapped by a fleeing smoke jumper reveal a 200-foot-high wall of flame racing uphill at 18 miles per hour. For those in its path, seconds now meant the difference between life and death.
We're right at the last 400 feet. It's straight up the hill. At that point, I looked back, and I guess I'd put about 10 or 20 or 40 feet of distance already between the people behind me. I don't know, I was just on adrenaline or something, I guess, and by that time it was really getting close. You get the calm was blocking the sun, so everything's real eerie red. I felt it coming from behind me, and I halfway jumped and was blown to the ground by some initial blast, I guess. And I was probably about 10 or 15 feet from the ridgetop then, and it just threw me to the ground, and that's when I got burnt. My hands got burnt, and arms, and the backs of my legs, and everything. At that point, I was starting to wonder, I was going, geez, what happened to the people behind me? And,
The 12 firefighters behind him died in a blow-up. Some sought refuge in their foil-covered fire shelters. But when a fire burns at temperatures as high as 2,000 degrees, there is no refuge. One week after the tragedy, smoke jumpers Sabino Archuleta and Wayne Williams returned to the fire line in Colorado.
I had no idea that was where he was. Well, I guess, but... Is that what it says on this? Yeah. I'm half curious to go on down and see where everybody was.
I have to. So he made it this far.
He almost made it to the top.
The firefighters who fell here had everything going for them. First-rate equipment, the best training, and detailed knowledge of fire behavior. But in spite of all the advances, Mother Nature remains as unpredictable and unforgiving as she was 45 years before in Man Gulch.
They paid a price for all the rest of us. It could have been any one of us, because they weren't doing anything that we all haven't done before. And it just, the things stacked up on them, and it was like a fate thing, and then they paid the price for us.
What happened in Colorado shook the smoke jumper community. It's something that we thought was impossible, but because it's such a tight bunch, we're still going, still watching out for each other, and we'll make it through this season and the next season and the season after that.